Okay, we're ready, I think. Thank you all for coming to Careers in Web Development. Hopefully you've been having a good Mass Comm week. Have you been enjoying the sessions that you've been seeing so far? I've been enjoying the ones that I've been going to. We've had some great speakers who have talked about a range of topics, and they've all come to help you so that you can be more effective in your future, get jobs, kind of know what to expect as you leave Texas State. So before we get started on this panel, we have an announcement from Becca Silvas.
Hello, I'm Becca Silvas. I am president of the Mass Communication Graduate Student Association, which is sponsoring this panel tonight. And I just wanted to let you know a little bit about the Grad Club, as we call ourselves for short. We just offer a lot of resources and opportunities for graduate students. For example, some of you were there. We just did a panel for undergrads downstairs on why go to graduate school. So that's definitely something you can reach out to us for if you are interested in going to graduate school. Thanks.
Thank you, Becca. You can clap for her. And I'm Cindy Royal, and I teach here in the school. I sort of lead our digital media efforts, and I teach web design, I teach programming courses, I teach some digital concepts courses, both grad and the undergrad level. And at this time, usually I'm with my web design, online media design grad students. So are you guys here? Say hello, wave, wave. Okay, so that's the grad class that we have. And the reason why I bring that up is they are learning the kinds of skills that they will be able to use in careers like this, like what all three of these people have done. As a matter of fact, Ashley, who I'll introduce in a second, was in this class Wednesday nights, 3 hours, and has moved on to a career that all of you can apply to what you're doing. And then some of my undergrads are here from the coding class. Raise your hand if you're in the undergrad. So Hector, anybody else? Yeah, a few guys from my undergrad class. Okay. So let me introduce everybody, and then we can get down to business and learning more about what it is they actually do and how they got there. So to my left, I have Josue Plaza, and Josue graduated just a few weeks ago. I mean, like literally it seems like he was in my office just a few weeks ago talking about his independent study. And he works as a junior PHP developer at Bravelets. And he actually graduated in May of 2015, so it wasn't a few weeks ago, it was a few months ago, but a very, very recent graduate. And then to his left is Ashley Hebler, and she graduated in 2012 from Texas State, and she is a front-end web developer with Volusion. And then at the end we have Glenn Jordan, and he also graduated from Texas State. He was a comm studies and English major, and somehow found his way into web development as a career. He is a web developer at Clearhead. So we'll learn more about each of these organizations and what they do. Josue, why don't you get started and tell us a little bit more about your background and what got you to the job that you have now.
Cool. So yeah, my name is Josue. I do, by the way, hope everyone can hear me. And if you can't, please just raise your hand and let me know, because we want to get this information to you guys, because really benefit you guys since you guys are students. So I do a lot of back-end stuff at Bravelets, and Bravelets, the company, is like a jewelry company on the front end, and we're also like a fundraising site. So basically, our demographic are people who are going through difficult times in their life. Let's say I don't know, your grandmother is suffering from ovarian cancer. You would buy a bracelet on our website, and you would give it to her, and when you buy the bracelet, you get $10 that gets donated to that research, so for ovarian cancer research or things like that. And if you wanted to create a fundraising page to help with medical bills or something like that, you could go to our website and create a fundraising page, and all of the proceeds that when someone buys it on your fundraising page, it actually goes straight to you instead of ovarian cancer research. So a lot of people use our website to fund for medical bills, or maybe they're starting their own charity or things like that. So we work with a lot of charities all the time. And our website, we don't use a template from WordPress or other CMS templates and things like that, or content management systems. So it's all built by us. So I deal with a lot of that. And we're a really small team. We're a tech startup in Austin. So it's a really small development team.
So Ashley, talk about the company that you're with and how you got there.
Okay, so I graduated in 2012 after taking Cindy's class and a couple of other web development classes. And I just went to a career fair, and there was a Volusion representative there, and I started talking to her, and I mentioned code. I like to code. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm learning a little bit, and she's just like, okay, well, maybe we'll start talking. And so kind of went through that process, and I didn't have all the skills I needed when I started, but I did have a basic understanding of what I was doing. And Volusion was really good about kind of helping me learn while I was there, which was awesome. And so when I got to Volusion, I joined the design services team. So basically, I get a Photoshop template. It's a fully designed mock-up, and I'll take it and transfer it into code with our Volusion platform. And just as a background, Volusion's kind of like an e-commerce builder. If you have something that you want to sell online, you can go through Volusion and build the website there. And we do all the payment processes and shipping and all that. But yeah, that's what I do, and that's it.
Okay, Glenn, talk about what you do and how you got there.
Cool, yeah. So I guess how I started, so kind of had a little bit of introduction into just the tech industry growing up. And I always just had a desire to learn about how to build websites and stuff. I didn't really take that super seriously until my latter years of college. And the first part of that was taking the web design class here at Texas State. But I think it was definitely a long process after that to kind of getting to the point where I could legitimately do good work on the front end, like doing actual web development. So my processing in there, I actually did a little bit of iPhone development. I took a swing at that, and I kind of just taught myself. I would find all kinds of tutorials online, and that was pretty much it. I mean, there's a site called StackOverflow.com. If you don't have that right, if you don't know about that, get on there. You can find out about just about anything. So I was just all over the internet trying to find resources to learn. And another turning point as well, I guess I was doing some iOS development. I was kind of like, man, I'm not really, this is like a big mountain to climb, being able to build iPhone apps. Like I'm making some progress, but I need to, get a job and make some money here. And so I found out about a program called Web Fellowship, which was basically a program just to help fledgling developers get connected to clients and to do work for them and get experience so that they could do their own freelance work. And so I hadn't done a great deal of web development before, but I knew a decent amount. I just having been in that sphere. And so I did that program and just kind of worked my ass off a little bit and learned a bunch of stuff. And through that, got a freelance contract position with a guy that was doing some web development work using a different kind of content management system. And just so you all know, a CMS, if y'all aren't familiar with what that is, it's a content management system. It's like WordPress. It's basically a way that you can distribute, I guess, like designs of your website and kind of different page designs. And so there's a different content management system called Craft that I worked with for, I guess, the fall of last year. And then in January, at the beginning of this year, I was able to get a job at where I'm at now, at Clearhead. And to give you a little bit of insight into what we do, I'd have to give you some background on what A/B testing is. And so in e-commerce, a part of what you do a lot of analytics in e-commerce, especially on big companies, right? Because you want to find the way that you're going to make the most money. Another word for this is conversion rate optimization. And so that's basically what my company does. We do a little bit more than just conversion rate optimization, but what we call it is A/B testing. What that means is we use a third-party JavaScript tag. We put that on our clients' sites, and then through that we're able to route users of that site to two different variations of a page. And then we run metrics on what they do on those pages and kind of see what performs better, what different designs perform better, or what different copy performs better. And it's pretty exciting. In my company, we've gotten some really cool clients. I guess like Adidas, Patagonia. We just signed with Vitamix not that long ago. A bunch of other ones that are really cool. And so it's a really exciting space. Analytics overall in web development is a really exciting space because that's just becoming more and more prevalent. And yeah, I've learned a whole lot. Because basically the way that it works too is that we'll launch a number of tests each quarter for our clients. And so it gives me a lot of opportunities to work iteratively and to slowly improve over like a course of different projects that I get. So yeah, that's basically it.
So I want to delve more into your technical background in a minute, but before we do that, I want to find out what role communication skills play in what you do, because all of you have academic backgrounds in communication, and people might think this was a departure to go from communication into programming. But how have your communication skills and your communication background, how has that helped you, and how is it relevant? So you want to start this way?
Yeah. So, I mean, web development is, you know, it's a mass communication tool where everyone visits your website. So you want to always kind of like, you know, like none of us are probably like under a rock. Like we're always aware of like what's going on in the world and things like that. Like we're paying attention to like design trends and things like that. And when it comes to like programming and stuff like that, like you don't need to have like a math background, or you don't even need to have like a love of like computers. Like pretty much like having like an idea, like I think the website should look like this, and I think the UI should feel like this, or I think like people hate going to a website and they hate seeing like pop-up ads. So like I know like when we're designing this website, it'll do this, so it'll be more beneficial to the user. Like that is like the stuff you really need to know like as a web developer, not like the actual know-how. Like Glenn was saying, like Stack Overflow is like a website that will really help you. Like yeah, like I'm on Stack Overflow like a lot of the times because the stuff that I'm doing right then and there, I don't know how to do it. So I'll look up documentation to do it. And like all of us can like look up a manual and like do it, even though it sounds like, oh, that sounds like a lot of reading stuff, but it's totally like not that hard. But yeah, just being aware of like design trends and like how websites communicate to like people, I definitely think is the important bit.
I mean, it sounds like you have empathy toward the design, to the user experience.
Yeah.
That your communication skills kind of help you with that empathy.
Yeah, user experience is definitely a term that comes to mind. It's huge right now. I mean, people, that's their main role, is a UX engineer or UX designer. That's something I do all the time when I'm working with our designers. It's a very communication-based role. We're constantly thinking of, is this drop-down menu really all that intuitive? You know, I mean, it's a message that we're trying to get across, and me coming from that background, that kind of design, communication, word background, it's definitely been helpful at my job. So,
yeah, I mean, to add, I guess I'm just a firm believer that communications overall is beneficial no matter what you do. I mean, and that definitely not going to be different with development. Obviously, I mean, you know, there's a stereotype of a web developer that's just like the guy, you know, eating Cheetos in the basement and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, they're love those people. Those are great guys to have around. I mean, there's lots of great stuff about them, but obviously the world is much more diverse than that. And coding is becoming something that I think isn't necessarily needed to be known by everyone, but it's definitely going to help you to have some level of knowledge about how websites are built, how all these tools are being built. And so I guess it's just kind of one of those things. It's about being aware of how to be relevant. And I think communications helps you do that, because it helps you to understand, you know, other people, understand just what your environment holds. And so that I think that's just vital in a number of different ways to improving and to being relevant. So.
And I assume that you all work on teams. You know, you have to collaborate with people in your company as well as probably with clients. Have you witnessed people who have poor communication skills and the problems that they cause in a technology environment? People are smiling.
Yeah.
We're live streaming, so you don't have to name names. but
Well, when you said clients are the
Oh,
worst
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
again, we're live streaming. So.
Yeah, I think that sometimes, it's like a very honest mistake. I don't think that people intend to be bad communicators at all. I think that they honestly, they want to get stuff done and they want to be helpful, but it's just, sometimes you just don't really know. You don't know like what, it is a skill that you have to develop and learn as you go about. So I think that, yeah, that's my.
Or if you work with someone that is a bad communicator, it's kind of on you to, guide them along. Because like if you're working with a non-technical person, they're frustrated. They don't know how to get what they're saying across. So it's kind of on you to be able to interpret what they're trying to tell you, because you are from a technical background.
So my background is a little bit different than you guys', and mine's more focused on backend. And the reason why I bring that up is I find it really interesting that typically I've kind of discovered that a lot of backend programmers kind of suffer a little bit more on communication words. Like they can't emphasize, they don't care what the website looks like. They're not focused on that, but they're really good on the backend kind of stuff. And I really think like even if you think you're a poor communicator, like there's still definitely sides of web development that like you could greatly like thrive in, because like there's so many different like aspects to web development. Like there's just like different front end user stuff like communication, but even like when it goes like more like in-depth stuff for like web development, like how a website runs, like the servers and all of that kind of stuff. Like there's definitely people who aren't like
Totally with it.
there you go. Yeah,
Not
exactly.
with it.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
So your communication skills are still really super valuable. I mean, I agree with you that like, what are we doing online? We're communicating. That's the whole purpose of web development. And then your functional processes that require you to be good communicators, I think. So let's talk about your digital technology skills and how you keep up. Josue, I know you did a code school, and Glenn, you already mentioned the web fellowships. Could all of you talk about how the challenges of staying up to date with technology and how you handle that? Some of you have broached it already, but let's go into some more detail on that.
Yeah, so just to give a little bit of background of why I got into web development, was like my degree here, like I think it was like my senior year when I finally realized I think I want a career in web development, because the demand is like absolutely great and it seems like a really cool job. But I didn't know anything about it. So I took this summer boot camp called Code Up, which pretty much taught me like all of the backend technologies that I use today. And man, I like totally got sidetracked because I was going to answer your question and could you rephrase the question?
How are you keeping up? Like, how are you learning
Okay.
stuff and keeping
Yeah.
up? So the Code Up was the first step.
Yeah. So the reason why I did that is because you can't, or at least I don't know about the graduate program, but you can't like take a class at Code Academy and think you're gonna get a job in web development. Like you need to always know, you gotta like research to be like, what do companies like want right now? And I knew that Code Up, that program that I took, like they were teaching technology that was like in now. So I ran towards that opportunity and took it because I knew that would help me get a job. But if you're just doing like basic like HTML and CSS, like you're just learning like what selectors are and stuff, and like you think like that alone will like get you enough to get a job. Like you really need to like go into it and really like understand like the new technologies and like really understand those.
Yeah, I mean, day to day, I'm constantly in code. I think that helps just being immersed in it. But as far as like learning new stuff, my company is really good about, we have all these subscriptions, all the tutorials out there. You mentioned Code Academy, but also just like digging on my own. If I have something at work and I'm like, man, I feel like I can really do this faster and better. I've noticed like that's always the project that ends up taking off, and I'll end up learning so much, and it's just because I was curious about something and I just kind of went for it. And then I also try to do side projects too, just to kind of keep my skills up. And I'm also, this is kind of a weird suggestion, but I'm always on Reddit. There's like a really good front end subreddit that's just constantly like distracting me at work with awesome links about front end technologies. So yeah, I would just say like keep your eyes open on the web. There's all kinds of cool blogs out there. that really help me day to day. So
So Glenn mentioned the Web Fellowships before. I'm going to point out Taylor Christensen at the back. Wave, Taylor. He's the one who started the Web Fellowship program. And so some of you may want to chat with him afterwards. There are
Thank
programs
you.
like you
Thank
talked
you very
about,
much, Taylor.
Code Up.
Appreciate it.
There's others around Austin, different coding schools. And I think, we're trying to figure out exactly what role we should play in academia to give these kind of skills to students as well. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about how you keep up.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool. I mean, so John Zmickley is another close friend of mine who is part of the faculty here, and I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool to start thinking about how do we bring these skills into college training, because I think it definitely is very relevant and very important to train people in. But I guess for me, I didn't get a great deal of all that training when I was still in college like you guys, but I just I honestly did a lot of my own work. I heard of a lot of these coding boot camps that are out there. There's Maker Square in Austin. There's another one called Hack Reactor in San Francisco.
General Assembly, Iron Yard.
There's actually, I think a former Texas State faculty member is at Iron Yard now.
Sam Capilla.
I see her a lot, and she's great, and they're doing great stuff there.
Her sister was a graduate of our program and does web development.
Yeah. So,
Sam.
So I think there's lots of great options out there in that regard. I think that I was really trying to just not have to pay all the money you have to pay to go to a boot camp, which is about $12,000 to $16,000, maybe a little bit more sometimes. And I'm not, those programs are great. I think that you learn a lot. In fact, I think three of the, and actually 4 people that have been on my team at the job that I'm at, 4 developers came from Maker Square.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
We have a lot from different
And so
places in Austin.
thankfully I didn't have to go pay that much money to go and learn a bunch of this stuff. But I think that, the way that I kind of keep up is I'm a member. I think that, you're always trying to learn more. So I think that just paying maybe $10 to $20 a month to be able to get access to certain classes on Tuts Plus is something that I've used before.
Linda.
The Linda
Treehouse.
Treehouse is an awesome one.
Udemy.
Udemy. There's all kinds of stuff online that you can get for relatively cheap and be able to learn. And honestly, Treehouse, I went through a lot of those courses, and I feel like I really was able to step up my game through watching a lot of those video tutorials. But I think that honestly, for me, where I feel like I really started to catch a stride and to begin to really know what I was doing is when I was actually able to work on projects. And that was the big thing about Web Fellowship that was really great, is that it gave you a way to actually do something with some of the skills you'd already done. And that's sometimes hard. It's sometimes hard. You come up with an idea and you're like, oh man, that would be so cool. But it's hard to get the motivation to really get started up to actually do it. And a lot of times I think just finding other people that are interested in building something cool. I mean, the web, there are so many great ideas, so many great things you can do to solve problems, to really make an effect on your community, on, your school, or wherever. So, I mean, just if you have an idea, you think, man, this is a problem, I really want to solve it. Just getting around with people that feel the same way and that want to learn, have a passion for learning, and starting a project where you can really get your hands dirty. I think that's where you're really going to be able to get some traction with learning how to do web development. I'm not sure if many of you are if that's what you're here because you want to be a web developer, but regardless, trying to find different ways that you can use the web to solve problems, I think that would be immensely useful for you in as you graduate and go on to other things.
If I can ask, is anyone here wants to be a web developer as a career? Raise your hand. A couple of people. All right, cool.
2 people.
Yeah, I was just curious. Hey, what's up? Cool. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious to gauge an interest. Because a lot of people I meet don't see it as a career because they peek the screen as a web developer and they just see code and it's daunting to them. But I mean, I have friends who graduated 2 years ago in PR or something like that, and and they're still struggling to find jobs when the web development market is just booming right now. And I love my job, great benefits, all of that kind of stuff. And I really think that anybody can be a web developer. It's not intensive at all.
It's not like rocket science. I mean, as much as I would like to think that I could get a job at NASA and like send somebody to Mars, I mean, that'd be really cool. But I'm not, I'm not there yet. I mean, and I think, and that's something I think when I was in college, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I don't want to sit at a computer all day and like do that. I want to be outside. I want to go run around and like talk to people, But the thing is that, I mean, number one, I still love to do that. One of the biggest reasons why I got into web development is because I wanted to be able to travel. And one of the cool things about web development is there are a lot of opportunities to work remotely. And there's actually, y'all look up this thing called Year One, or not Year One, what was it called? It's this program where you can work remotely, and this company will take you all over the world and like just, it's not all paid for, of course, like you have to pay something for it, but it's a pretty cool program. And so that was kind of how I got into like thinking that web development would be really cool, because it just gave me more opportunity to do a lot of other things that I really enjoy. And plus, I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, while it's not like rocket science, I mean, it's a challenge,
It's like solving a puzzle.
It's solving a puzzle
all day.
Yeah. And so it's like a lot of jobs you'll get. I mean, you just go in, you'll just be like, punching keys all day. You're just thoughtlessly doing all these tasks. And so it's cool. I really appreciate being able to go into a job and actually like use my brain and problem solve.
And seeing something beautiful in the outcome. Like you have this awesome website that you created when you're done with it. So
It's such a satisfying feeling.
yeah, it
And,
is.
You're trying to figure out like why this freaking div is like not blue, and you're trying to make it blue, and then you do it.
Anybody relate to that in the room? Yeah.
You have
So let's talk about some of those little problems. I mean, when something like that happens, how do you solve it? And I'm asking this, with sort of who helps you?
Stack Overflow.
Stack Overflow. No,
Like,
but
there's nobody to help you, right? Like,
Right,
you're
yeah,
it,
you're
right? It's your
figuring out.
resourcefulness. So talk about talk about that environment of the problem solving.
So I think that that's an excellent question, because when I started, I was scared shitless because I wasn't sure if I was gonna do anything that they gave me, if I could even do it. And if you just go on the documentation, like I don't know, Mozilla, the CDN, HTML, CSS, and you just read it, like it is so helpful. And like all you have to do is follow the steps. Like, and then if you have a specific problem, Google it, Stack Overflow. Like it's really like being a web developer is like, I know how to like Google shit to like do what I want. Like, it's really like all that
We
is.
said that in
Like,
class last week too.
yeah.
So
Being resourceful, yeah.
Yeah, Google's a super powerful tool. I definitely like still use the resources of my really intelligent coworkers. But if it's like a CSS question or an HTML, like I should probably just look it up. I mean, that's on me to figure out. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think you become like a professional Googler
Yeah.
being a developer. But I mean, yeah, a lot of it, problem solving, like communications, like anything else, is a skill that just takes time. So I think that, perseverance is a big aspect of just getting through those kinds of things. And I mean, it's really cool to kind of, be as far into things as I am now and kind of be able to look at a problem that I really don't know, and to realize that I can solve it faster than I would have if I would have come across a problem that I didn't know before. It would take me way longer to figure it out. And now I've kind of developed this process that I don't even really think about, that I can use to figure to
How you
solve
isolate
things.
the problem,
Right,
and
yeah.
the things that you've like experienced before.
Sure, and
It gets easier.
and it helps you. I think you become more observant about things. You kind of become more able just to spot things and to think of those edge cases that maybe before you wouldn't really have thought of. So
I mean, I think it's not to say that you wouldn't ask for help if it was a problem that you felt. I mean, you get some sense of judgment of the kinds of things that it's okay to ask people for help, and the kind of things that I should be able to figure this out myself, right?
yeah, I think imposter syndrome is
Oh,
a
yeah.
big word in like our community, right? Because I think you come into a job, I think as a junior, like a lot of us, and you're kind of like, take it till you make it. I need to act like I know what I'm doing, and you're always worried about being found out, that like, oh, people are going to find out that you don't know anything. And lots of people kind of suffer from that, I think, in their first year or so of doing development. And that's totally okay. That's a process of it. Like, you just have to kind of, it's all about persevering through that. And I mean, and honestly, I mean, I think you should definitely use discretion, use good judgment in asking good questions. Like, you don't want to ask a question before you've done your due diligence to figure it
Yeah.
out, but at the same time, not be ashamed of,
Yeah, because
know,
you can learn a lot
something.
from other people. I mean, I think the web development world is kind of based on open source and sharing, and so that doesn't mean you shouldn't ask for help. It just means that you figure out, when you have the resources to be able to figure something out. And like you said, it gets easier as you solve
Yeah.
these problems over
Yeah.
time. A lot of you didn't raise your hands about wanting to be a web developer, but I will say that the majority of you in this room, I should, get your names and take a survey in 5 years, will have to do some HTML and CSS in your careers. You're going to work in some sort of a content management system, and the div is not turning blue, or whatever. And some things you can go to IT with and maybe get on their schedule for a month later for them to help you fix it. Some things you can fix on the spot yourself, and you're the hero of the company. So even though your job might not be web development, I think having some, like you said, some programming sense. We've been talking about this a lot lately too. Like, programming is not either you can or you can't. It's a whole range of skills. And so where are you on that spectrum, and how can you continue to push yourself along? And it's just an approach to problem solving with a computer. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that point too, I mean, a lot of my project managers at my job, if they didn't know HTML and CSS, I mean, it would just be a nightmare, because I can't explain to them adequately what's going on what I'm doing, unless I can't explain it enough to them to where they can then take that to our clients and explain that. So if you're wanting to be like a project manager somewhere and wanting to be in tech, which I mean, if you're not wanting to be in tech, I mean, rethink that, because
Because
there's lots of opportunities and lots of great
the
opportunities.
world is full of tech.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, knowing those basic things is like, hugely important. I mean, so yeah, I just added to that point.
I mean, I think another thing that students need to know is how to work with data, and some programming skills can kind of help you with that if you know how to scrape data from a website, or you know how to work with APIs or something like that. And I would assume that most of you in here probably don't know what I'm even talking about when I say API, application programming interface. But these are going to be valuable skills for all sorts of communicators to have, to be able to tell stories and use data in them.
Yeah, definitely.
Like on that regard, I would say there's almost like an equal demand between back-end programmers and front-end programmers, and the stuff you're talking about, like data and stuff, that's definitely I'd say lean more towards like back-end programming. And yeah, it's just as achievable, definitely, as front end, and if not, I mean, just as rewarding. Yeah.
And quite often these areas are overlapping a bit too. I think companies do have these roles, like your front-end web developer and somebody else works on the server side, but I just see more and more that like you have to know both, or you have to be able to work in both environments, or be able to kind of go over and at least communicate with people who are doing the data part, or communicate with the people who are doing the design part. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely roles where you're a full stack developer, and that's if you can be that, because that's a very in demand role. But yeah, I mean, to me, I see JavaScript as like kind of that language that, I don't know, front end developers need to know and back end developers need to know. It kind of like marries the two. So JavaScript's a really good thing to learn.
Good thing we're learning that, right, Hector?
Yeah.
And, and I was just going to say, just as far as data goes, yeah, I mean, so we have like a whole team of analysts at my company, and so I don't necessarily have to work with a lot of back end types of tools or anything, but knowing about data and understanding analytics is hugely important. And even if you guys aren't like really sold on the coding thing, learn about Google Analytics, understand
SEO.
web analytics. Like that will give you so many opportunities if you can understand that. Because I mean, surely some of you like sports, the Rockets, or I don't know. I mean, Spurs, even I don't know. But I mean, the Rockets was the GM, Daryl Morey, right? Uses analytics to kind of figure out how well each player on the team is going to perform, and that's how he kind of built the team, the Houston Rockets, and that's the kind of the same thing. Analytics give you so much power, and with the web, it's so cool because I mean there are like almost a limitless amount of things that you can kind of you can glean from what's going on the web. And so that's a hugely important thing to learn about, I would say.
If you don't know anything about analytics and you have like a Google Analytics and you have like a WordPress site, maybe like I don't know, like a Tumblr page or something like that, like you can like sign up for free and you can stick that on your website and you can see like how many people visit your website and literally all this like information about it. And so maybe that might interest you, and maybe that might be something that if that interests you, you might look up something more in web development. But I definitely think that was definitely my first experience. Just being blown away by like, oh, 20 people on my site.
It's really cool. I mean, it's so awesome. You can kind of see like, oh, this person like clicked on that. Oh, wow. And
Somebody from Japan came to my website.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, literally a few hours ago, right at this table, somebody else said the most important thing she learned in school that she uses in her job, and she's in social media, is that she learned about Google Analytics while she was in school. So Nicole George, she works for St. Arnold's Brewery and does social media. So how many of you think you might work with social media in your careers? I thought more hands would go up. And I know a lot of you will have to use data, and I know a lot of you will have to deal with programming tools in your careers if you're going to do social media, because it's not just tweeting. It's really, I consider the social media role of the future a data scientist position, where you have to understand analytics and you have to be able to use judgment and create strategy around those analytics.
Oh, yeah.
These
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to throw it out to questions in a second, but as you guys are formulating the questions in your head, can each of you talk about one of your most interesting or favorite projects that you've worked on and give us some details about that?
I can start.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm really, really excited about this one, but kind of like what you described earlier, where a designer for our company brought a Photoshop mock-up of like, this is the new redesign of the site, like get to it. And I looked at it and I was like, I didn't do much in front end like ever. And they assigned that task to me, and yeah, I did it, and it's like live on our site, and I was just like so proud of that. Like if you really don't think you can do it, like you can totally do it. Like it's not that hard.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think I have a favorite type of project. So when we get designs, kind of like what you were just saying, sometimes they're just crazy looking. I mean, there's like slanted lines, there's like icons everywhere. There's stuff that has to be text editable, can't be an image. And I just look at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna take me forever. But when I do it, it's just like the most rewarding thing, because I have this awesome site that I can be like, man, this took me so long, but it was so worth it. So that would be my favorite type of project.
Yeah. Favorite project for me. I guess the most challenging one that I had to do recently that was a lot of fun and that I got a lot of satisfaction out of. I had to build this test for art institutes, and basically it was just a scholarship. Their scholarships page, we're just doing a total redesign of it. And so with what I do, like I basically make all of the changes to their site like completely. I guess I'm not in their server or like changing anything on their back end. I have to do it all after their page loads, and so it makes a lot of the adjustments, a lot of the DOM manipulations that I do a lot more complicated. And so that was really challenging when I first got it. I was like, I have no idea I'm gonna do this, and it was super satisfying to kind of to just iteratively, I kind of slowly get to the point where I was like, oh yeah, like I can actually deliver this. This is going to be on time. Like everything's going to go great, And so yeah, that was probably my favorite project recently.
Yeah.
We have the mic out in the audience. So who has questions?
Am I supposed to stand up?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Hello. Hi. Okay, so I know that you said students look at coding or like analytics and things like that, and it's kind of overwhelming if you don't know anything about it. So like you look at an entire page and it's like all in code, and it's like there's lines and like letters, and like you don't know what it is. So do you have any like tips on like what you did, or like how to look at a code, or how to look at like Google Analytics with all the terms that they have, and you have no idea like how to break it down to like look at it in a way that it's not so intimidating?
If I can start first, I know we mentioned a couple of websites, and I highly recommend for you guys to check those out. Code Academy, Treehouse, lynda.com, and they will literally like, break it down for you. That's very, very like easy to understand and super beneficial. And literally like, you don't have to have any experience in computers. My boss, who was like an incredible web developer, his previous background is in construction, and he didn't go to college, and he's awesome at his stuff. And he learned, just doing it like that, like going to like Treehouse and like lynda.com, or I don't think that existed then, but he did like other stuff kind of like that. So yeah, definitely look up like starter websites and yeah.
Are you graduating? Okay, so take web design.
That, and I would say, so download a code editor. Sublime's a good one. And so if you have this like long chunk of text in plain text, like it's all white and black and white, it's hard to see what's going on. But if you paste it into a code editor, it kind of like colorizes things, and you can see a lot of times like there'll be little comments, and that's grayed out. It'll be like insert Google Analytics here. That's really helpful for just like trying to make sense of all that. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I think reiterating both those. So, I mean, seriously, Treehouse, teamtreehouse.org. If you go there, there are all kinds of videos on there. And that's seriously how I mean, so if you go through the front end web development on there, you'll be more than set as far as code goes. With Google Analytics, there's lots of different tutorials online with YouTube. And if you go to Google Analytics, like if you go to google.com and type in Google Analytics, you're going to have to probably go through their documentation, but really their documentation isn't all that bad. And they actually do have like a little training course. They have a couple of different training courses you can go through. And, it's going to take some time. But, I mean, guys, if you do development and analytics, if you really invest in learning both those things, it will absolutely pay off. So, yeah.
And start small. If you know HTML and CSS, like, stick with that and learn the basics and just build on that. Don't like switch around to Ruby and PHP and doing all this little stuff. Like, yeah, if you stick to one thing, and it'll just expand as you continue to research it.
I have a prize for you if you want for asking a question.
Sunglasses.
So thank you guys for coming out and talking to us about all this stuff. Josue, you said that your company uses like an in-house CMS. So my question is, what did the lessons that you've learned online about, all the other stuff that's not in-house, like WordPress and, Bootstrap, things like that, prepare you to learn your in-house proprietary software coding, and what did it not prepare you for?
All right, that's a great question. So it prepared me for, if we're using WordPress, which the original site back in like 2012 used WordPress and just had a whole bunch of custom plugins and stuff, and it was a mess because that's supposed to be like for somebody who doesn't really know anything about web development, and they can just do that stuff, and on the front it looks great, but on the back end it looked terrible. So we were able to like optimize it to make sure like it's not doing anything funky or anything like that. Using the language PHP, which is like a backend languages, and then using a framework on top of that, and then customizing it to how we want, was like, it's like something that it's really easy to experiment with, because if something's not happening, I can look up documentation to fix it like instantly, but it still requires me to like realize what's going on and fix it. So that's something that you can't ask like WordPress tech support to help you with, something like that. So it's kind of like learning to be independent on like understanding like how it works, if you know what I mean. So yeah, does that answer your question? Okay, cool.
Oh, and the prize for you. So I could just throw it. Ready? Okay. Maybe I should. There you go. And I don't trust my throwing, so.
Any other questions? We got a
Ask
quick
it.
question, and then would you say of your job description, what percent is back-end coding? What percent is kind of working with content, like front-end type stuff? And what percent would you say maybe is design? If I could divide it up into those three categories.
So mine is about 50% back end, 50% front end, and I don't personally design. Well, because I design the admin tools. Okay, 40% back end, 30% front end, 30% design. That's 100%, right? Okay, I wasn't sure if I said okay. Anyways.
I'd say I'm 0% back end, really. I mean, I don't really deal with that. But I don't, in terms of design, I'm not designing. I maybe making a couple of design decisions while I'm doing it. But I am coding a fully designed template. So I guess that's design. So I'd probably say like, I don't know, 80% design and content, as you're saying, just like adding. Create. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't really do any of that. So 100% design.
I say pretty much 100% front. I guess back end, is, for those that don't know what back end, what that means code that runs on the server side. So the way that the web works is that there's all of these different servers, there's big computers that host all of the content, all of the data. And what you have your computer that has a browser in it, and it makes an HTTP request and says, hey, computer over there, give me some of that data. And it says, okay, cool, I'm gonna give you some. And then it sends it to your browser. And so what code that runs on your browser, that's front end code. Code that runs on the server, that's server side code, that's back end code, okay? So all of the code so what I'm in is a kind of a subset of development called third-party analytic or third-party JavaScript, which is basically so whenever code gets to the browser, there's all of these tags, and all of these tags which are actually JavaScript. I guess they're requests for JavaScript files, and they're in the head, like in the top of the document that you get into your browser. And so basically, what happens is the browser's like, go get all these other JavaScript things to like run on this page, and so. So all of those load up as your page loads, and so I work with the JavaScript that runs there. And basically I work with third-party JavaScript is what it's called. Sorry if that doesn't completely make sense to everybody. Hopefully some of y'all were able to take some nuggets out from that. But so technically I do all front-end development, but I work with JavaScript, which is becoming a language that is also being hosted on the back end as well. Node.js is a really exciting new library of JavaScript that will run on the server, and you can even code robots with it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, and I've been trying. So I do actually a little bit of Node for some back end for tools. So there's some things that like are very repetitive in what we do at my job. So we have some Node JavaScript that will automate some of the tasks that we do. And so I haven't technically written any of that. I have like I actually have written a couple of Node modules. There's a thing called NPM, which is a Node package manager. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm bad with acronyms. But yeah, there's a bunch of different things. So Node package manager is just a place that you can download different Node JavaScript to automate tasks that you would run. And so if you're going to become a front-end developer, you're probably going to have to work with that some. And so that's a whole nother story for those of you that aren't up to HTML, CSS yet. But if you do, some of these online courses, you'll get there eventually. So yeah. So I'd say so 95% front end, maybe 5% back end. Yeah.
Okay, so y'all are just like reading my mind, because I was going to ask, for those that don't know what front end or back end means, what does it mean? And you just answered it, so thank you. And so I guess to still ask a question, Cindy, do we do any back end stuff?
we, in this class, will look at a self-hosted WordPress installation that will get you to start thinking about some back-end functions and functionality, because WordPress is sort of data-driven. But then when we have the next class, I don't know if you're taking it, or some of you I think are signed up for it, the Advanced Online Media course, or the coding class I'm teaching this semester, then we get into some of the data things that we've been talking about. We sort of broach the web framework area. We talk about how you manage data, how you make queries and things like that. So, it gets into that area, but it's not like sort of hardcore back-end development. So primarily front-end, but with like a real appreciation for the kinds of things that the back-end does to contribute to it.
Questions? Okay.
I don't know if she wants something. Okay, thanks. Just while she's not looking.
Hi.
Hi.
So, for like somebody who might have been, for example, like in math tutoring or something for the first half hour of the meeting, just, rough example, like maybe can you give a rough summary of what that person may have missed? And if you can, maybe also include what careers this exactly was talking about.
So I'm going to suggest that you go back and watch the recording, because this is being recorded, because I think the 45 other people in the room probably don't need to hear exactly what we just went over. But we are talking about careers in web development, and they're either working for web development companies or working for companies where they are doing the web development of it. So next question.
I just want to know, what type of jobs are there for web developers?
You guys want to start? Or?
I mean, so we kind of talked about like a front end, back end focus. I mean, what kind of roles would you? I mean, I don't know. So
it's such a broad question.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like,
Go ahead.
I guess I'm just trying to think of it like from a text perspective. If you were to go to Amazon.com, okay, there's people who design the way Amazon.com looks like, and those are like front end people. And then there's people on the back end that manage what the database is. Like if I'm a seller on Amazon, I have all my products and stuff, and it goes into a database on the server on Amazon. There's a ton of careers in database analytics stuff. And then there's people just making sure the site runs, and those are like Linux administrators. So that's like another aspect to it. And then there's just people who specialize in bringing the data from the server and then to the front end, making that jump. So those are like, I guess, just back-end programmers. Then there's web analysts. And then there's designers. I mean, a lot of the time, the front-end people, like Ashley, she just creates it. Like there's a guy or girl who mocked it up in like Photoshop and said, look like this. And they were like, all right, like we'll do that. So there's like all those different types of jobs.
And then there's people that will do just like admin interfaces. So if you have like an application or something, like this isn't like an actual website, it's just a tool that someone's using. So there are people specifically focused on the design and the engineering behind that. Yeah.
And then plus these careers, I mean, these teams get so big, like then there's just people who manage those people. Like they don't even touch that stuff. They just tell us like, you gotta meet this deadline by Friday,
Right,
and
right.
They gotta know like how much it takes, like how long it'll take a developer to build something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they did a good job of answering that. I think that there's really just so much out there. I think that if you're asking what is there in the field of, building web applications and building websites, I mean, there's so much that needs to be done to bring that to production, whatever you're doing. So, I mean, yeah, like project management is a role that you can do. I mean, as far as development goes, there's different types of engineers that are going to focus on different types of things. Some people really specialize in CSS and are able to really make a good career out of just, working as a UX designer and designer developer, and then others can do more kind of in-depth engineering. So there's just like a slew of different things you can do. I mean, if you just pursue what you're really interested in and just try to learn as much as you can about the sphere of web development, I think you'll definitely find something that will fit for you. I would argue. And
that's not even going into like different technologies, because there's a lot of websites made in a language called Ruby, like Ruby on Rails, and then there's a lot made in PHP, and there's a whole bunch, so it's like, there's some developers that make websites front end with those technology, and some that do front end on these. It's so diverse. So yeah.
I'm glad you brought up this idea of product management, because it's something that's kind of come to my mind recently, that it's a potentially good career for a communication major who has good tech savvy. Because, when we talk about product management, and they kind of got to this, but it's a role that you manage the whole life cycle of the software product, whether it's a website or some other type of software. So you have to be able to work with resources that you don't necessarily have a direct report manage. You have to understand technology. You have to come up with strategy. So you have to have great leadership skills, great communication skills, and great technology skills. And so to be able to have, and it's not necessarily an entry-level position. So I would like to know, do you guys see that as a potential career path? Do you see yourself maybe moving into the product management role?
Definitely not entry-level. I think a lot of ones that are up there start as entry-level, obviously, though, and they work their way up. I've noticed they tend to be paid the most, for sure, because they're in charge of overseeing and stuff like that, and they make the big decisions. So yeah, it's definitely something that I'm interested in. It's like the if you want to pursue it as a career, it's like one of the highest tiers there is.
Yeah, you have to know a little bit about everything, or a lot about everything, really. And you kind of have your hand in the design, in the, like you said, the communication. So it's a very involved role, but a very important one to a company.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not an entry-level thing. I don't say. I think that it would be hard for a person coming straight out of college to get that role immediately. I don't know. I think, who knows, if you have some kind of management experience otherwise before you graduate, I think that you could potentially find a job doing something like project management. Product management, I think I think there's a difference between project management and then product management. Yeah, because products, that's usually you're kind of like the person that brings something to production, to being live on the web, or to onto the market, I guess. And so that's a lot of responsibility, and you kind of have to work with a lot of people that need to respect you. And for better or worse, a lot of times recent college graduates don't have the most cred, right? So yeah, but I do think that it's a very viable career path to strive for as someone that is a communications major, and to kind of utilize those things that you've learned in college. I think that regardless, though, I think that for me, I think someday I could see myself becoming a product manager or some kind of management position inside of tech. And I do think really that having the knowledge that I have now, going through what I'm doing now, is going to help me get there. Because the guys that are the managers, I guess we call them optimization directors at my job. And they're really intelligent. They really know a lot of the stuff that they might not be able to do everything that I do, but they can speak to me very intelligently about what I'm launching, what I'm trying to get out for production. So yeah.
And I will say that, like, as media companies become more technology companies, so we're not just talking about going to work for a tech company, but any sort of media organization, the New York Times, Austin American Statesman, Texas Tribune, who Evan Smith will be here tomorrow, they're making digital products. And so they need people not only who can do these things, but can also manage in that environment. And that's very directly related to the things that you're learning as a mass communication major. So a lot of potential moving into that area.
Okay, so I have like a two-part question. Was there like a light bulb moment when you're like, oh, like I'm actually good at this and this is what I want to do? because that kind of happened to me this semester, so I'm just interested. And then, yeah, don't say. And then also, like, are you the people in the group that actually like love your job instead of like having to go to work?
Go for it.
I just want to say, like, I kind of want to sell this job to you guys because, well, just because I freaking love my job, because I'm like on vacation every day. Like, I can't say about your work environment, but if I feel like taking a break and like going outside and taking a walk, like I can do that. Like I can set my own schedule. I can go to work at like 12 in the afternoon and like stay, you know, whenever I want. I can work from home, and like my work is totally cool with that. They're like, yeah, do what you want. Like, we just want you to feel comfortable. And I think that's fantastic. I don't believe in the 9-to-5 work ethic, you know, like you gotta tell your boss you want to take vacation in Tuesday or in February, you know, and might get denied. You know, you're screwed. Like, no, like I told my boss, like, hey, I'm going to like the Dominican Republic in January, and like they're like, all right, cool, awesome, and like they're totally cool with that, and I just think that's fantastic. Plus, the job itself isn't like, it's challenging, absolutely, but it isn't frustrating to where like, you know, I hate my job, and the skills are like years from now are like completely marketable. Like the demand only goes up the more experience you get in that kind of stuff. So definitely like would love to steer you guys through it. Like, I mean, I don't know. I just see my friends in like you guys' eyes with like they're PR majors and like they can't get a job working social media, and I'm just like, dude, like learn coding, like so many jobs. Like, I want to ask you guys, like, do you guys get spammed by like LinkedIn recruiters and people all the time from like job offers from other companies all the time, and it gets annoying. But that's such a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Like, literally, people are screaming at us to like find like to get other jobs in other countries. That's how crazy the demand is.
And yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, well, you said did we have a light bulb moment? And I would have to say that my light bulb moment was probably like in Cindy's class when I was up really late at night working on code, and I was just like, whoa, like I'm not even upset. Like if I were studying or something, or writing a stupid paper or something, I'd be like, man, I hate that I'm up right now. But I was like enjoying pulling an all-nighter, like, and that's when I was like, I should probably do this. Like, I enjoy doing this for fun. So that was my light bulb moment.
That's awesome. Well, dude, congrats to getting that light bulb moment. That is like so awesome to get. I feel like I have gotten to a point where I'm like, yeah, I can do this. Like, I've definitely gotten there. I've had maybe multiple light bulbs, like small light bulbs here and there, you know, as I've gone on. But yeah, as Josue was saying, I mean, you know, I definitely want to sell my job too. I think that this is probably the first job that I've had that I am like stoked to go into work every day. And I mean, the people that I work with are great. The stuff that we're doing is exciting. I mean, I'm pushing live changes to Adidas's, you know, site, and I'm like, or like just doing really cool stuff that like, you know, yeah, looks good on a resume. But I mean, other than that, it's just satisfying to kind of to do something that's meaningful and relevant. And yeah, I think that, you know, once you graduate college, I think that, you know, not to patronize anyone here at all, but you know, I think you kind of have a little bit of a different perspective when you graduate and you're kind of like, you're done with the school thing and you're kind of like, man, I need to actually make something of my life, you know. And I think that you know, having different, there's some things that you kind of you dream of that are like great things to dream of. And I think, you know, definitely want to encourage people to follow their dreams and to seek after that. But I think that what's so cool about web development is that it's like an enabler to do all the things that you really want to do. Like if you want to travel, if you want to, you know, have a family or anything like that. I mean, doing web development it gives you the means to be able to do all these different kinds of things. And I think just, yeah, as they've already said, I mean, like just the grind of doing stuff, it's like you're being creative, you're solving problems, and you can kind of really get just you can submerge yourself into something. And I don't know, I guess maybe some people aren't as into that, but I really enjoy just kind of focusing in and solving a problem. And yeah, I've had definitely a lot of those nights where I'm like up late and just trying to figure out how to do something, and I'm not even mad about it. I'm like, yeah, this is sweet. Like I mean, I'll sometimes like, I gotta wake up in 4 hours. I'm like, no, I gotta figure this thing out, and so yeah, I mean, I think it's incredibly fulfilling and satisfying. So
I mean, I just want to say, like, it was a long time ago, but I remember my light bulb moment when I was just starting to goof around with HTML and CSS before I had a PhD and before I was a college professor. And I remember having this realization of, like, I can't sing or play a musical instrument. I'm not artistic at all, but I can do this and I can be creative with this. And it set me on this path to get a PhD and change my career. All I did was start goofing around with HTML and CSS. And so, talking about like loving what you do and, changing your life. I mean, sometimes there are those light bulb moments that just set you on that path. So it's kind of exciting to remember that time.
I don't want to ramble on the point for too long, but going with what Glenn said about it frees up your other passions, like I definitely agree. If your passion is music, which is like my passion, or I don't know, like dancing or something, you could create like a website about dancing, Like, and I just think that's awesome. Like the internet is never far from any of your other passions, like you're so connected to it. Like you can, with programming, you can create so much. So.
And my first website was a music review website, and I still keep it up on thatnote.com. That's what got me started. It was a passion that I had that I was like, oh, I can do this web thing and, write about music. And literally is what got me to where I am today. So, which is why we make you guys do blogs and FDOM, because you never know where that's going to take you. Question? You've been patient. Sorry.
So I've always been taught that plans are good. Plans are good to have. Whenever you were leaving college, maybe you had a 5-year plan. And then now I would assume you've made some modifications of that 5-year plan. Would you guys mind just briefly going over what your plan was and what your plan is in the future?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, plans.
I don't want to be the guy talking to him. So
No, you got it. You go for it.
My junior year of college, I wanted to be a sound engineer because I had a really big passion for music. But I wanted to be a sound engineer because I really loved music. But that career, it's kind of hard to get a job in that field. And so my senior year, I kind of saw the demand for web development, and I changed it all on like grasping maybe after college, if I learn all of this stuff, maybe I'll get a job in web development. So at least I can do my other passions. And so that's when I started my senior year of college. That's when I started learning about the technologies, when I took Code Up, and I got a job like so freaking fast. Like it's just unreal. So my 5-year plan from now, I mean, I just continue this, and I can continue doing music. Like I have so much free time that I just do music all the time, and I have like money to spend it on, upgrading my home studio or whatever. So yeah, just basically like that's my 5-year plan. Like I started in music, and then I just directioned in less than a year in like web development, and I can never look back. And it's pretty much like the greatest decision I ever made. So yeah.
I think it's kind of hard to say. I think that's probably the question we're struggling with, is saying what our 5-year plan is, because the web changes so fast.
Oh, yeah.
Like a job that I'll have in 5 years probably doesn't even exist now. I mean, there's no telling what I'll delve more into and what will become like an industry trend that I need to jump on. But when I was a grad student, I was like super into video. That's why I went to grad school. And then I just kind of, that's like falls under the umbrella. It's like a technical skill. But I just kind of like went into web after that. So, I think you can have a plan and think you're going to kind of do this one thing, but then something else comes up, and that's okay. Like you're probably kind of good at that too. So.
For me, I guess starting with my 5-year plan when I was graduating college, I actually was really wanting to go into ministry. I had been really involved in my church growing up and in a lot of different organizations in college, but I guess I did an internship at a church in Austin, and through that just had a number of different experiences, a number of different things that I just started thinking about that led me to just forsake doing the ministry thing and to kind of like say, yeah, don't want to do that anymore. And I kind of, and that led me to thinking about how does that, what was leading me towards that translate into something else. And I'd always been really interested in web development, and I really wanted to just make a difference in the world. I wanted to kind of help people and wanted to do things that would just benefit others, but in a big way. I didn't want to just make a splash in a small space. I wanted to really to make a change, and not just I didn't want to just help others. I wanted to really make the most of myself. I wanted to kind of I looked at web development, I looked at just software development overall, and I was like, I think this is a place where I can really maximize my potential for what I can accomplish in my life. And so that was how I got into doing web development. Like that's how that 5-year plan kind of transitioned into doing a new 5-year plan. I think that what my 5-year plan is now, which I have done a fair amount of thinking about, but I think that it is a kind of a difficult thing to do, especially especially since my plan has been changing over the past couple of years a decent amount. But I think that a roadmap that I would like to see happen is just for me to be able to get a lot better, to kind of level up, to become like a ninja with coding, And once I get to that ninja status, I think a lot of different, opportunities will open up. And to be honest, like if maybe a 10-year plan, I joked about working for NASA earlier, but if there's any way that I could work into like doing engineering, doing something that's related to space travel or to, I guess there's just some really deep science. I think that would be incredibly fun and really cool. So yeah, that's roughly, I guess, my plan going forward, I'd say.
We'll let you go in a second, Hector, but we have a question from Twitter. It's from somebody watching the live stream. Veronica Ramirez is in my undergrad coding class, and it's for Ashley, but I'd really like to get all of your impressions of this. She asks, do you feel that women are becoming more interested in web development? Is it still a male-dominated field?
Absolutely. I love this question. I work with 4 other girls on a development team, which is kind of, not unheard of anymore, but I feel like when I entered the field, I was the second girl to be hired. So yeah, I think it's a great career for girls. And then there's also, we talked about kind of resources earlier, but Girl Develop It, they do classes, and it's for guys and girls, and it's like I love that learning environment that they have, because they don't make that imposter syndrome that we talked about. You don't have that in there. You're not scared to ask questions. There are no dumb questions in there. So that's a good resource for girls or guys that are wanting to learn. So
all of my coworkers are men, and for us, obviously, like it's a men-dominated field in that department, and then everyone else, like our creative team, are all women, and like our bosses are all women. It's strange, but we totally, like, women can totally be like web developers. When I took Code Up in San Antonio, they have scholarships for if you're a woman and you want to like do web development, like they give you like a scholarship, like if you're qualified. But I just think that's awesome. Like they're trying to get more women involved, because yeah, it definitely shouldn't be a male-dominated industry. There's nothing that
yeah, there's no difference.
Yeah, it really isn't.
Yeah, I guess for me, so when I did Web Fellowship, I was at one of 2 guys in a group of 8. Right? Yeah, it was 8 people. Yeah, so we had 6 girls, so we were outnumbered at Web Fellowship. And the job that I have now, when I started, there was we were a 5-person team. We had 1 girl, and she was actually one of our senior developers, and she left to actually go work on the Hillary campaign not that long ago, which is really kind of, a cool opportunity regardless of what your political stances are. But and then now so after she left, I was kind of bummed. I was like, I was talking to my coworkers and my boss and saying, man, it was kind of nice having a girl on the team and kind of brought a different kind of dynamic. So we just hired 2 interns that are both girls, and it's been really cool having them around. I think that, yeah, I mean, in my somewhat limited experience as far as just working in an office due to the development, I do think that that the environment is improving, or that I think that there is a lot of different opportunities. I think it's a great job for women to come into, and like we've been talking about, I think that stereotypically women are a little bit better at the empathetic communication and all of that, and that kind of element I think is definitely needed. Like I think that and just diversity anywhere, I think enriches your experience. So so yeah, I think that it is getting better. Sure.
Hey guys, first of all, I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to come out to speak with us.
Thanks for having us.
I think this is I guess this is an important question for me, or I'm pretty sure for everyone else in here. How did you guys get hired? How was your portfolio? Did you guys have any online subscriptions, like a GitHub or just just a database or just platforms like that? And with your 3 separate web development companies, and how you guys were able to plug yourself in to get in the job? Because I know it's not just, hey, I just walked in and applied. You have to maybe know somebody, you have to network, this and that. So I mean, if you guys could explain the process of getting hired to I mean, I think it's a dream job. It's a cool job. I mean, how you guys described it seems pretty cool, and I just want to know what I can do and what we can do to make sure we end up being successful like you guys and landing a job like that. So
I think if you take, I'm gonna leave like my business card here, and if you go to myname.com, it's josewayplaza.com, you'll see my portfolio, and I haven't touched it since I got hired, which I should definitely update. But right there, if you can do, or if you look at it, at that stuff, and there's like a portfolio tab, and if you can do any of that, you're more than qualified. So maybe if that's something you want to shoot for, just like check that out, if anything.
You talking about GitHub and even CodePen. I don't know if y'all ever seen CodePen. Just having your stuff out there is great. I got my job through just going to a career fair that I thought nothing would come of it. I just went around and talked to people, and the girl at Volusion, like we kind of chatted it up, and it just worked out. And then as far, I've actually done some interviews with candidates, so I feel like the ones that come in and they're just kind of like, yeah, I want this job, and then I ask them like, oh, do you like follow any blogs? What's your, who's your favorite person in the industry? And they don't know. It just kind of tells me maybe they're not so passionate about it. So like having a passion for what you do, I think people notice that.
Yeah.
Being familiar with the industry.
So for me, I don't want to cause Taylor Christensen to get bombarded by people after this, but so I did web fellowship. Basically, that was a big vaulting point for me. And so I'll definitely talk to Taylor back there and see about how you can get connected with things like that. But so a big part of what we did as a part of Web Fellowship was we went to meetups, and that's a really big thing. I mean, just networking and kind of getting to know people and letting people know, hey, I mean, I don't know a lot yet, but I'm starting to learn. And I'm trying to get going, and just like, and people will start to recognize you as you go to these different meetups, and the people that care about the community of coding or web development, and they'll notice that you're there, and then someday there will be like, oh yeah, there's Sam, like he's been around and he seems like a cool guy, like I'm gonna give him a job, and so going to meetups is a big thing, I'd say. And one in particular, there's this one called Refresh Austin, and so they're probably gonna, I guess they're having another big web bash thing at the end of this year. It'll be fun, I guess, like they've already mentioned, I guess just try to find those projects that you want to get a friend and work on a project, just something simple, and put it on GitHub, and just have some things that you can showcase. And I think another thing, just another detail about the hiring process, right? At my job, we get a bonus for referring someone, right? And it's a pretty nice bonus. So if you kind of end up knowing people and you just kind of let people know, like, hey, like I'm a web developer, like, hey, I'm building this stuff. You just try to be more public about it. Eventually, one of your friends who maybe has a job at a tech company is going to say, hey, that's that guy. He knows how to do this. I'll get a bonus if I refer him. I'm going to refer him, you know. And so I think that's like a big thing. It's just really trying to get it out there that you're doing it. Like just tweet that you're like, hey, I learned how to do this thing today. It was awesome. And just start trying to be involved in the community. And I think that'll help a lot. So.
I totally agree with that. And that's really the best advice I can give to students too, is network. And Austin has tons of meetups, tech meetups. We could go to one probably right now if we got in the car and drove to Austin, and we could look it up online. I was at one last night that I do called Hacks Hackers, which brings programmers and journalists together. So that might be one that, not just to plug my group, but that might be one that you guys want to look into. Refresh Austin is great. I go to this one called Austin on Rails, which is the Ruby on Rails meetup. And I'm not really a Ruby developer, and they really talk over my head most of the time, but that's fine because that's how you learn something. And I met cool people who work in really cool companies by attending that meetup group. And then using social media to kind of complement that, where you're engaging in a community, you're sharing what you're learning and what you're doing, people see that, then you have a great excuse to talk to someone at a meetup. It's like, oh, we communicated on Twitter and now I get to meet you in person. And
at Refresh, they have like I guess an open bar, or like for the first hour you can get free beer and free like little appetizers too, so you can get a little snack.
And a lot of these meetups, when you first get to them, they say, how many people are looking for jobs? How many people need to hire people? And then bam, that's the matching. Yeah.
Put my glasses on. This is kind of just a weird psychological thing that I thought of whenever you guys said you solve puzzles and you build things. How many of y'all played with Legos when you were little?
Oh yeah, love Legos.
Yeah.
And Glenn, you probably want to talk to me a little bit about NASA afterwards.
Oh yeah, okay.
Carl loves NASA.
Sweet. Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
So, so that I think we're probably out of time right now, even though, you know, our class usually goes on longer than this. I'm sure you guys have places you need to go to tonight, but let's thank this group because I think they did a fantastic job. And thank you all for coming. And if you want to hang out for a few minutes and chat with them, feel free to do so.
I'm gonna leave my business card, and if you don't want